listening to the How to Health podcast. Turn up that stereo, plug in those earbuds, or pull up a chair. It's time to master your health journey. Here are your hosts, Dr. Heidi Cook and athletic trainer Tyler Smith. Let's ride.
Boom.
Howdy ho!
Hi, we've done it.
It's the final countdown.
Don't, you can't do that. I used to have a strength coach that played that nonstop, like literally once a week. It was terrible.
It's the final episode.
Season 2 and the wraps.
That's right. My goodness. What a good season.
This is like season 2, but season 3 or 4. Like I'm losing track of how many seasons that we've actually put together here. That is crazy. Like it's almost been close to 4 years.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild. Although the first when we were the 2% better, I feel like it was much. We did a ton. We just rolled for like a full year.
Yeah, we did. Seasons are nice.
Seasons are great.
It gives us a creative break to take a beat and, not consistently just churn out episodes and, get our creative juices flowing again.
Well, I think the other thing is it's really good to, when you talk about stuff, it's always good to have new topics and new reminders, but it's also like anything, like you have to give yourself a chance to implement them and see how they work and give yourself the gift of time to, hey, they talked about doing this last week. And then, you can revisit some of those and be like, what do I struggle at? Look through, let's listen to it again. And then like really give yourself the chance to try to work it out in real life.
Yeah. So while we have no baby updates, who knows what's happening at this point in my life? It's crazy to talk about, like thinking about it in a crystal ball version, when this episode comes out, will I have a child? I don't know.
I feel like almost definitely yes, because I feel like we're going to try to wrap up around the end of May, 1st of June. And I hope based on our last one and the size of the baby, you're not still in this position just for your sake.
Yeah, I hope so too. All the good vibes out. By the time you're listening to this, I'm sitting on a couch, me and my child both in diapers, having a great time. That's what I'm hoping for. But
with a turkey sandwich, some red wine, and you're on your second cup of coffee.
Precisely. Nicely. Couldn't have said it better myself. But I'm really excited to take kind of like a look back on this season because I think taking these breaks over the summer allow us to do a couple of things. While we love that you guys want to put us in your earbuds every single week, I think it gives you an opportunity, and it almost like it gives you 40 minutes of your day right back in some sense, where you can, maybe stop thinking about it and start doing something about it. And summer is a great time to make that happen. And I think, having these breaks from, again, like constantly talking about it, thinking about it, brainstorming ideas about it, it gives you the space to like actually take action. But if you just cannot go months without listening to us in your earbuds, we also wanted to take a little bit of a look back on the season as well and point out a couple of our favorite episodes each, so that we can point you in the direction of maybe a re-listen or a revisit that could be helpful for you to help bridge the gap between now and when we come back in the fall.
The other thing I was going to say, because I've heard some people talk about podcasts, and this is a hack because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and because I've heard people say like, it's an hour, blah, blah, blah. Like, here's my hack. You listen to it on 1.5 speed.
Yes.
No, like I'm not kidding. I listen to a lot of podcasts. All of them are on 1.5.
I don't listen to podcasts I listen to one podcast at normal speed because they talk fast anyways.
Yeah.
Every other podcast is either 1.25 or 1.5, and same with Audible.
Yeah. Well, and I do that too. Yeah. Books. And what's really super funny is when you get used to that and you go back to 1.0, you're like, dear God, you are so slow. It's like, it sounds like, hello, Heidi. You're like, okay, let's speed it up. But so if you do need to get through some, because I understand I'm one of those people that like, I have podcasts I listen to. I don't miss them. Like I've had, like other than ours, I have one podcast that like for 6 years, I've never missed an episode. And I'll come back from vacation and I'll be like, oh crap, now I'm behind. But 1.5 will save you some time, just so everyone knows.
Catch you up just in a hurry. But yeah, the other thing that I often hope, I never know how people are listening to our episodes, right? Like I just never know how they're tuning in, or or just listening in general. My podcast time comes while driving,
Oh yeah.
also while walking. Like that's my biggest.
I listen to audiobooks when I run, and then whenever I am in the car, I usually am listening to a podcast.
Yeah. So I'm always curious. But hopefully, like I said, we can circle back to a couple of episodes for some meaningful revisits. And maybe circle back to a conversation, and it might honestly sound like a totally different conversation now than when you first listened to it, based on where you're at in your life, what you have going on, or hopefully improvements that you've made since the first time that you listened to it as well.
Exactly.
So let's trade off back and forth. Tyler, if you were to point somebody to one of your favorite episodes from season 2, where would you send them?
Well, one of my favorite ones was episode 19, which was life, aging, and fitness.
Ooh, yeah.
Also, because I'm aging, I'm not the spring chicken I once was. But the more that I kind of reflected on that, I feel like when you were looking at we talked about how to modify workouts throughout the course of life and what that kind of looked like. I actually find it can be beneficial, even if you're not, older in the process, like say this old guy is, but also like it's an understanding of like modification throughout the seasons of life. And just because, you're 27 and feel like you should be able to do stuff, it's also easy to be like, okay, well, that would be great, but I have 3 kids, I can't do stuff. So understanding that the modifications that we talked about in that episode can be applied at any point in life and might hold much greater value as you get older. But you can take those and be like, hey, he talked a lot about, as he gets older, he's finding a lot of benefit in these 15 to 20 minute workouts. Maybe I can try to do those because I just don't have time right now. Instead of like the energy, the motivation, the strength, you can also make those modifications right now to just kind of assist you through these times.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great revisit. And I think that was just an overall really good conversation around just where we all are, right? Like if I had to venture a guess, I also don't know for a fact. I wonder if I can find it. Hang on. Hold while I figure out if there's a way for me to tell. No, there is no way for me to tell. Well, never mind. I was gonna say maybe there's a way I can see like audience demographics of age, but if I had to venture a guess, that is truly just a guess because there's no way for me to see what our demographic breakdown is what or like is that probably the grand majority of our listeners are over the age of 30, right? Like if I had to guess.
If I had to guess.
Do I think that's everybody? No. So if you're in your 20s, hey.
Yeah.
This is coming for you too. You're aging too.
Yeah. You won't think about it till you get there, but yes, it will.
But, 30, and we talked about it in that episode, is kind of the peak turning point. And does that mean that, your function is just, all downhill from here? No, because we can do things to combat it. And I think it was a good conversation about what that needs to look like in order to, maintain physical function over the course of our life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just one of those things that if you apply some of those principles and work on it, it will also improve consistency throughout the course of your life, because too much is full throttle and then we hit a snag and then we don't get anywhere. And if you learn nothing else as you go through that consistency from us is going to be the most important factor in any endeavor in life.
100%. I agree.
What about you? What was one of the ones that really stood out to you?
There's like 3, but I'll start with this one. So maybe I'll give 2 and a bonus. And they're all kind of like close together within the season. We had a lot of good episodes this season, lots of good discussion, but I really enjoyed the conversation around motivation and dedication. And
Sure.
So this is episode 10. And it was this, the dichotomy between motivated, finding motivation, building motivation, this, the overall concept of motivation, and either dedication or, quote unquote discipline, and where those two things come together, where they can both, relying on one or the other solely, can, be a bit toxic, and, how to kind of marry those two concepts in a healthy way for you. Because how we balance those two ideas out is going to look different for every person, in terms of what's healthy for them. And I think a lot of people struggle wanting a black and white, one size fits all answer when it comes to, I'm just not motivated. How do I get motivated? Or I just, I'm or like dabbling in seasons of too much rigidity, and not, allowing for rest or allowing for this or that. And not only I think there was a good open conversation about how both of those concepts can kind of backfire on us or keep us stuck, and how we can discover what a healthy kind of medium gray area, embracing the gray area, what that would look like for you. And I really liked that discussion.
I think it's also was a great discussion because those are things that are selling points for fitness and media.
Right.
And a lot of times we get miscommunicated with that they're super important, and us just going back and listening to that and having you have a greater understanding that it is not one or the other, but the gray area is really like kind of where we should live, because they're going to try to push one or the other as your weak spot. In reality, it like you're going to have one side that's probably a little bit more relatable to you, but in general, it's not just because you don't have one or the other.
100%. I agree. So yeah, great episode, great revisit. What's the next revisit on your list?
Mine was probably 30, which is not too far, which was the push or pace.
That was one of mine too. That's so funny. That was a really good conversation.
I really enjoyed just like helping people work through that, because I think those are two things that we see a lot of, where it's either like that's all or none, push, and then drop off, or and trying to get people to understand like that ultimately we want to back it off a little bit and find that steady pace for any sort of change in life, and preach consistency. But like I think it also rang home a little bit because I think everyone can kind of identify with one side or the other. Like for me, it's much more of a pace thing. I need to learn that like it all doesn't have to happen today. Like this workout is just one of hopefully hundreds of thousands that you'll do without your life, and that it's not, the critical pivotal one that's going to change my life. It is more the consistency. So understanding it, feeling better, leaving some in the tank for the next day and just giving yourself that energy throughout the course of your life is kind of the most beneficial part of all that.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and it kind of almost like piggybacks well off of that other episode as well.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for like maybe like a part 1, part 2, I think that, going episode 10, episode 30 might be
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great idea.
a fun little way to dabble in that. So yeah, shout out to the Push or Pace episode. I also think that was a great one. For my next one, I'm going to throw it to a rogue Q&A episode.
Rogue Q&A episode.
I had to go through and make sure that this was the right Q&A episode, but there was a really good conversation. We addressed 3 main questions, and they were really good questions. It is episode 20.
20.
And wow, you could just go by tens and you're hitting all of our favorite episodes. 20, 30. Question 1 was how to address that I feel like the input doesn't match the output, or like the input that I'm giving or the effort that I'm expending, or, whatever, in terms of, I think in this particular question, it was, with exercise in the gym isn't matching the result that I'm looking for on the other side. Or like, there's a discrepancy between where we are in terms of the effort that we're giving, and the outcome that we're receiving. Absolutely. So I thought that was a really great question. Number 2 was how to get through a workout slump / no motivation. And so I think that was another big reason that we addressed or wanted to address that kind of motivation type question, because it's something we get all the time. If I ever open a question box, if we ever open it up for Q&A, I can almost guarantee that there will always be a question about lacking motivation, how to find motivation. And so we talk about it here, but then there's that whole episode 10, where we addressed it in further depth. But the last one was around body image issues. And I think we recorded this one in January. So just like a lot of talk around New Year's resolutions and changing your body for the new year and new year, new me, and how to combat, that negative narrative around your body. And so that was question 3. And I just think overall it was well-rounded. There were some hard-hitting questions. Like we definitely didn't opt for the easy softball, what's your favorite Starbucks order question.
Yeah, I mean, those were definitely a more in-depth explanation question.
Yeah, in this episode. And I think this one would be a really good revisit if you're looking for kind of like a little sampler platter of topics. I love our Q&A episodes overall, and I just think this was probably one of the better ones from the season.
Yeah, and I think that also did a great job of relatable questions. Everyone has been like have one of those questions or still has them, and trying to always gain some other perspective, because even now when you're reading through them, I feel like I've been in that spot at numerous times throughout the course of my life, and just trying to understand or give that outside perspective of what you're not seeing that is actually helping you right now always helps.
Yeah, 100%. I said I had one bonus episode. Where did it go? It was next to okay, this is a bonus episode from me. It is episode number 9. And it is the episode around weight loss. And so I'm going to caveat this with if that's just, not something that's in your wheelhouse that you want to listen to or have dialogue around, then don't listen to this episode. And we talked about this at the beginning of the episode. If this is not something that you're ready to listen to a conversation around, then don't listen to it. However, if you are, or you're starting to dabble into, dabble into being open to listening to conversations about this, I think this is a good episode to just kind of see, like, almost test like where you're landing, because we typically don't talk about the concept of weight loss on this podcast. It's never the purpose of any of our plans or programs is never solely to chase after weight loss, but we felt this season that it was important to at least address the topic. And it stemmed from an audience question. And again, typically, if there is an audience question that comes in about it, there's probably 100 other people who are sitting there with that same question. So, I wanted to give a soft, honorable mention to episode 9 because I thought it was a good discussion on a tough topic.
Yeah, no, and I absolutely agree. And it's one of those things where I feel like, and I don't, everyone is different. That is not a focus. Like I said before, weight loss can just basically measures on a scale. I always joke that I could cut your arm or leg off and we would have a significant chunk of weight loss, but it's not really helping us. But I also feel, while we don't directly always attack it, it is something that most people deal with. So talking about it with the caveat, like if you don't want it, throw it away. If you want to listen to it, or if you need to come back to it, or you weren't ready for it and now you're like, hey, this is something that I feel ready to tackle, that is always banked in there for you to listen to.
100%. Well, hopefully you really enjoyed season 2, and we have some fun changes coming up for the upcoming season. We won't get into the details. I'll leave you guys on a bit of a cliffhanger, but just kind of talking about what we've really enjoyed talking about this season, what the feedback from our listeners have been in terms of topics that you've enjoyed listening to, and the perspective of where we want to continue to grow and evolve this platform that we have, and continue to take you guys along with us, because we're very grateful that you've stuck with us. Maybe this is the first time that you've listened to us ever. Maybe this is, your 4th year in the trenches since I started the very first kind of version of this podcast. We're grateful for you guys being along the ride with us, and I'm excited to see where this continues to grow and evolve when we come back in the fall.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Like we said, we'll always look at evolving and changing this to help our audience and to kind of to drive you guys to be better in every endeavor in life. And thank you so much for everything. And that's a wrap for the season, and we will see you in the fall.
Pew, 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 pew. See you in the fall, everybody.